Sean. Hey, Radcast is on.
And welcome to the show, Mr. Jim Zumbo.
Gentlemen, I am pleased to be here, and I use that term loosely when I say gentlemen.
Al Linder. Just want to welcome you to the show. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us on a podcast for a little bit.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. There's nothing makes me happier than a cold in Minnesota. If I can't be out fishing, I should be talking about fishing.
Hailing from Wisconsin, Jana Waller.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's Radcast. Hunting, fishing, and everything in between. Powered by Bow Spider.
Brought to you by PK Lures and High Mountain Seasonings.
And now, here's your hosts, Patrick Edwards and David Merrill.
Well, hello and welcome back to the show, everybody. It's David Merrill here on the road at the Western Hunting Expo. It's a great time in Salt Lake. We are at booth 2324. You won't be able to attend if you're listening to this live, but next year we'll be back again. It's an awesome show. If you're in the West, you definitely should swing by, check it out. There's a lot of cool companies, a lot of cool products. You get to meet a lot of people. But and you have to excuse my voice, guys. I've been day 30-something on the road at the shows.
Jeez, man.
But I am really excited. I snagged Mr. Hunter McWaters, and
What's up, buddy?
he's been a friend of mine for a while now.
Yeah, I was literally talking to you yesterday. So I think it was either 3 or 4 years ago, the first ever event I went to was a TAC in Pennsylvania when I was first starting out with the podcast. And you and your wife, I think, were the first people I talked to. And you guys were super nice to me, and I was all nervous. So I always love coming to shows, and I can pretty much count on any show I go to. I'm going to dig you up
Somewhere, I'll be there.
It's always good to see you, man.
No, it's been awesome to see that from that first show, you come up to me, and I'll admit, you were a little timid. You're like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Would you be willing? Hell yeah, I'll come on your podcast and talk about, that's my job, right?
Right.
But as we've gotten to know each other, you also know that it was who I was before I started this company.
Oh, yeah. You're the same when I met you. And yeah, we did a podcast there, and then I had you back on the show, I don't know, probably a couple months later when we were back at home.
You've been crushing it. You've been killing it, man. I followed your season this year. You had a phenomenal season.
I did. God blessed me big time this year. I was able to put myself in some cool positions, and then God did the rest and put the animals there.
Patrick and I have both talked about some of that on this podcast, is how when you show up, and you just have to show up as a man of faith, but as a hunter, as a conservationist, and you just have to show up being willing and ready to work. And sometimes you don't know if you're taking a kid on his first fishing trip. Those opportunities, if you just show up every day, you get up and go, what am I going to face today? With a positive attitude, knowing that, hey, he's got your back.
Yep.
It's really cool to see how situations and the Lord will work through you to affect other people. And I'm very low-key. I don't cram my faith down anybody's throat, right? And it's because it's for me. And I am not a perfect person by any means.
Yeah, me either.
And I'm not going to stand here and claim I'm holier than thou or quote scripture to you and hand you a Bible and say, you need this, right? But what I will tell you is I need it for me.
That was well said. Same with me, man. And that's always been my approach. Talking about faith in the podcast, I try to bring it in sometimes. I feel like there's so much good content out there about physical fitness and mental fitness, mental toughness in the hunting space, but nobody was really addressing the spiritual side of things. And especially when I first started, I was maybe talking about it a little more, but want to get back into doing it more. But I think that's such a huge part, is having your spirit in check. But it's scary. We do the Sunday scripture on our social media, right? And there's some people that are put off, turned away, or dismayed by that. And I would go as far to say that's more on them than on me, right? It was scary for us to be like, you know what, we're just going to commit to this fully. On Sundays, we're putting a scripture out. And same thing at TAC. On Sundays, I'm out shooting with my family. Yeah. You come by my booth Sunday morning, I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be enjoying the outdoors. And that comes, it comes from a biblical standpoint, but I learned it the hard way by doing back-to-back shows for weeks on end, never taking a day off. Got burnt out super fast. And then when those opportunities to try and meet with you or meet somebody, or hey, there's an opportunity to take a kid or a youth or a new hunter or just a collab of some reason, when you're exhausted and you're over it, you can't show up as that man of faith, as that
steward and that conservationist and the guy that's, hey, man, it's awesome. I met David. I want to go back and meet him again.
Yeah.
You've got to have your R&R time.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's all about balance. Like, I travel quite a bit because I live on the East Coast still. But when I'm home, I work from home. And not that I don't have work to do, I still do. But I try to, if I need to just put it down for a couple hours and go play with the kids or take them to school or pick them up, like, just try to, when I'm home, be present and be home with the kids and the wife and stuff.
But your journey is it's a heartwarming story of a guy who was a little bit out of shape.
Yes, true.
Unhappy with your job.
Yeah.
And you woke up one morning, pulled your bootstraps on and said, I'm going to make a change.
Yeah.
It's time for the change. And look at, we talked about that way back 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Look at where you've gone.
I know, man. It's crazy. So one thing that I'm blessed with, it can be a curse sometimes too, but when I get obsessed with something, like, it's happening. And it definitely was not an overnight thing. But yeah, I was previously pretty dang overweight. Technically, by the numbers, I was obese at one point.
So what were you at your heaviest?
I was 250 pounds. I'm just about 6 foot with shoes on. And that was like 0% muscle. I mean, it's
your
just all
fighting
fat.
weight should be about 185, 190.
Which is what I am right now, 185. And so, yeah, it was actually a trip to Alaska. It was my first trip ever to Alaska. That it sounds cliche, but it literally changed my life. I was going with a dude who was a friend of mine who was ex-Navy Special Warfare, and we were packing in, and I knew it was going to be, like, legit. I'd already started trying to get in shape a little bit, but that was, like, the carrot that really kicked me into gear. And I wasn't doing a podcast or a show or anything at that point. I did have a background in professional television production, but not in the hunting industry. With that, I really started going nuts on getting in shape, watching what I was eating, and my spiritual life was improving, my physical, mental, everything was shortening the story, but it was a really cool time in life. And that's after that trip to Alaska is when I decided to do the podcast. And then the podcast, it just all snowballed into what I'm doing now. And I feel like this is what the Lord made me to do. Just with my experience, my life experience, my skills. I feel like I'm finally at almost 37 years old doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So it feels really cool. It wasn't an easy road. It was a rough road. It's still not an easy road. I'm still on that road very much.
You're going to go on hunts and have failures, and you're going to have collabs that just weren't the right one.
Relationships that go south. There can be drama in this industry. There's a guy I saw last night who I thought was my friend. He walked by me at 10 inches. It didn't even act like I didn't exist.
Yeah.
And that hurt, man. But some doors closed, other doors open.
Yesterday is we as a community do need to start pulling each other up and not pushing each other down, right?
Totally.
And now if somebody's being illegal, immoral, or unethical, I'm going to call you out on your BS.
Sure.
But other than that, man, if you're doing you and it's not hurting me, we need to celebrate each other in our successes. Absolutely, instead of being, I see some of what you talk about in this industry, and I'm going to move past it. And one thing we've started at Bow Spider is we have a policy that we work with people who will celebrate Bow Spider.
Yeah.
If you can't celebrate us, if you're only going to tolerate us, obviously we don't need to work together.
That's a good policy, man, because you want to feel valued, like with partners or anybody.
And each person out there has value. If you're listening to this and you're going, I want to go on my first DIY hunt, dude, follow Hunter and check out your videos, right? Our videos the same way. My YouTube videos, it's all DIY. Mm-hmm. Now it's all Trojan horse to serve you Bow Spider, right? I'll be honest.
Yeah, but that's okay.
The only way I can afford to even do those trips is to run it through the business. Right?
Yeah.
But when you start watching our films, and no, they're not professional level, but they're good films.
And people want to see the product in the field and see it operating and how it works. And it's one thing to see it at a show. It's a great product, but when you see it actually working in the field, that's the best kind of marketing.
If I was 250 pounds and not to pick on anybody, but relatively sedentary, and said, this will work to carry your bow, and people look at me and say, you don't carry your bow anywhere, right?
Exactly, man.
When I have 20-mile rucks of dull sheep or elk or mule deer, and I can say, no, this thing legit works.
Absolutely.
You need it.
Yeah.
That celebrity endorsement, so to speak, I'm not a celebrity, but that credible endorsement from somebody who uses the product in the field carries a lot of weight.
For sure. It's like going to a church and like the pastor's preaching and he's hungover and overweight. You're not going to listen to that dude.
But what I would say about church, because a lot of people walk in there brand new, off the street, carrying the weight of the world on them, and they look around and they go, they look at it like it's supposed to be a new car dealership, right? And if you sit in any pew and you stare around long enough, you can find the dents and the scratches and the dings, right? Because that isn't the new car dealership where everybody's in there showing off how good they are. What that is, what that building is, and what it's for, that's the used car mechanic.
Yeah.
Everybody's in there getting the maintenance or the repair they need to get down the road for another week.
I like that analogy. I sometimes say it's like a hospital too.
Yeah.
Same thing. Absolutely, man.
And it's, so if you walk, and there's some really cool statistics. I've brought it up on the podcast before, but if the father hunts, 20% of the kids continue to hunt into adulthood. If the father
only 20%.
and mother, only 20%. If the father and mother recreate in the outdoors, so that can be 4th of July camping, that can be fishing by the local lake, 80% of the kids continue to recreate in the outdoors into adulthood, right? And it's actually the same thing for church. If the mother is the one who drags the family to church, 20% of the kids continue in their faith into adulthood. If the father is the spiritual leader in the household and takes the family, and the mother and father go together, it's like 80% of the kids continue. But it has to be you and your spouse against the world. And that, I'll tell you guys right now, you look at any of these guys that are very successful in the outdoor industry, there's a good woman standing right beside him, helping him along.
Yeah, I couldn't do any of the stuff I do, going all the hunts I go on without my wife at home. I know 100% when I leave, I can trust her. The kids are good. Like, so shout out to my wife. She's awesome. And my mother-in-law. She lives with us and helps us out a ton, which is actually awesome when I travel. But your wife's cool too. I met her a couple of times.
Half you guys, if you interact with Bow Spider, whether social media, email, phone, you're not dealing with some big corporate that's got outsourced phone center in India.
Yeah.
She's usually got a baby on her hip and the phone in one hand and cooking a meal in the other and going, I'll get your order out or fix your order.
And she's super nice and welcoming. Like going back to that first event when I was all nervous walking around trying to talk to people, she was just so nice to me and just made me feel like a friend almost. So I really like your wife. She's cool.
I like her too. I've kept her around for 20 years, but hopefully she keeps me around.
Yeah, man.
Crush a day.
We're crushing it.
How's it going, man?
What's up?
So as you've transitioned, because you're no longer the timid little guy of, hey, I got this podcast, will you come on? You're like, hey, I'm Hunter. I'm here.
Yeah.
Check out my videos. And you've produced some quality stuff. Guys should check it out. I've been following along this year. You killed a hammer blacktail.
I believe that's the biggest blacktail ever killed on camera.
Really?
Go look it up. Try. I can't find one bigger. The film's not out yet, but yeah. So I was blessed to shoot with the help of some friends, a 140-inch Columbia blacktail net, not gross. Wait, no, that was gross, not net. 140-inch gross. I shot my first bull elk this year in New Mexico. Total God thing. I was like, I'm gonna kill my first elk this year, and I draw. Not even in the outfitter pool, on my own, I think 1 or less than 1% draw odds, a premium high-demand muzzleloader tag in New Mexico. And then had an amazing trip up to Alaska. Got my first caribou bull. It was my third trip to Alaska, but first bull. And then we floated out. And then I just got off a really cool aoudad hunt in Texas and got Aaron Snyder just confirmed 11.5-year-old ram. By the picture.
By Mr. Snyder.
So
he's somewhat of an aoudad expert. He knows him.
Yeah, he knows him. It was an amazing year. You can see most of the snippets of the year and pictures and reels and stuff on my Instagram, but most of what I'm producing for a television show. Season 2 will air Q3 and Q4 on Sportsman Channel. We just finished up Season 1. But then I'm also posting a lot of stuff on YouTube from Season 1 now. So most of those hunts are up on YouTube. And then obviously the podcast, the Hunter's Quest podcast. And I'm really trying to do TV and digital well in the podcast, which is not easy, but you have to these days.
No, it is. We'll get back to the hunting in a second, but it is a crowded, tough space anymore. If you and I would have started our podcast, started our filming hunting even a decade ago.
Even 5 years before we started.
Yeah.
It would have been a different world.
It's now you can walk around this Western hunt and you'll see 12 podcasts being recorded, right? It's a very saturated market.
Man.
And it's hard how do you stand out and differentiate yourselves? And Patrick and I have found our niche. You've found your niche, and
working on it.
I think working on it. But to the people that are out there that are wanting to start something, anything, right? Mm-hmm. saying I'll wait till I'm an expert at it before I start. No, you gotta. You just touched on it. You went on 3 Alaskan caribou trips to kill a bull, right?
Yeah.
Alaska's
technically one was a Kodiak, so that wasn't really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I bought 3 caribou tags before I filled one.
And Alaska's I tell everybody this. I've said it before. Alaska has my heart. Wyoming has my soul. Right? That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yes, Jesus is my savior, but Wyoming has my soul. I'll go to Alaska any
I
chance
applied for
get.
General Elk in Wyoming this year. We'll see.
Well, let me know if you get it, because
will.
it's a good time. I drew brown bear in Alaska.
I know you told me. That's sick, man. Are you planning already?
Have some trepidation and some hesitation about it, because my dad also drew a premium archery moose tag up there.
Are you going to do archery for your bear?
Yes, 100%. I'm not even going to. Somebody will need to pack a backup rifle, 100%.
Course, yeah.
If you're trying to do that without a backup rifle, can it be done? Yes. I have 3 little kids at home.
Yeah.
I do need to return.
For sure. With a face.
Yeah, with a face. But there's something about laying down there at 200 yards and finding a bear and dumping him with a 300. No problem. Guys can do it. Would I do it? I'm not saying I would never do it.
Yeah.
My last film, I had to finally knuckle under, and I used the rifle on day 17 of an 18-day hunt. And do I regret it? No. I'm glad I got a goat. But the goal was, the job's not done. The goal was to kill one with a bow. I have a goal of getting it done.
Yeah.
And we had lots of opportunity. I was sub 100 yards a couple times on goats. That's pretty easy rifle distance, right?
Oh, yeah. That's dead.
Yeah. Screwed up, and the stock blew up, and they saw me, and it was over, right? And that Kodiak mountain goat is tough country. It is tough.
Kodiak is rugged, man. It's deceptive because it doesn't sit that high above sea level, but it's straight up from the ocean.
It's straight up from the ocean. It's like Hawaii, just straight up.
Yeah.
And those goats are, even though they quote unquote don't have any natural predators on the island, they're still a prey species, and they're pretty good at avoiding you.
Getting into archery range on any animal is an accomplishment, man. Like, it's not easy.
But that's, for the bear, like my Cape Buffalo, it's just something to be able to get into their wheelhouse, pull that string back and let an arrow fly. It's just the next level of challenge, and it's not. I started out
something that can kill you.
Yes, that is definitely when you add that level, right? Just trying to get within archery range of a deer or an elk, which if you mess up, they could kill you too.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say about Alaska, and you mentioned it, is my dad and I went on 3 DIY Dall sheep hunts before we got his sheep.
Wow.
Alaska's amazing, but it's very low game density. You are going to cover tons of miles in between encounters.
It's true. I think people have this expectation that there's just going to be like animals everywhere.
Like Missouri whitetail. They're like, oh, just go up there and there's just caribou running everywhere.
Right.
Well, at certain times in certain places, it can be so many caribou you can't swing a dead cat without hitting one, right?
Yeah. For sure.
But
we killed 2 bulls up there, but it took us 9 days, and we killed the only 2 bulls that we had an opportunity on.
Walk me through the mental prep, just the whole from start to finish on one of these out-of-state hunts, right? What are some things you're mentally preparing, thinking about, the trepidation, the hesitations? How do you overcome some of those? And then talk me to getting to the hunt, and then coming home either successful or unsuccessful.
I'll talk you through the Alaska one because that's the most logistic heavy. So for me, it's even more, there's more to think about because I'm producing a TV show. So I'm also dealing with, I'm booking travel for myself. I'm booking travel for a cameraman. I'm making sure flights get places on the same time or roughly the same time. With Alaska specifically this year, as hunting in Alaska is getting harder, and just to find someone who will fly you or take you in somewhere, you might be looking at 2 years out to book.
Thanks, COVID, for that.
Yeah. And so for this trip, for example, I had to call the transporter and basically talk them into taking us up on an off day and dropping us and letting us float out. Because normally they drop and they do drop camp and then they pick you up. And I was like, just take us up there on an off day, drop us, and that's it. And we'll float out. And they're like, and I had to talk about it. And he's like, okay, fine. And so then I had to work on getting some loaner pack rafts because I didn't have big enough pack rafts, and I need to get 2 of them. I'm not going to just buy them, so I got to talk to that company. And then Alpaca Raft, they helped me out. They sent me some loaner rafts. So
because they're $1,500 a raft, right?
Yeah.
Plus
you gotta
you're
have the
talking
biggest one.
$1,500 a person for the flight in.
Yep.
That's after your flights up to Alaska at $500 or $600.
Yep.
So this is not a cheap.
No.
Even though it's a DIY self-guided float out, this is not a cheap endeavor you're going on.
No, it's still a pretty expensive hunt. And then I'm packing gear, and I'm packing camera gear, because I always act as the second cameraman on my hunts. I take one videographer, and we both kind of film it. So there's that aspect of it. Of course,
you're self-filming, and you got a guy filming you,
Yep.
which is smart. You get 2 angles.
And then other thing I normally, like I did on this hunt, my camera guy, he gave me a better price because I'd offered him, I said, hey, get a tag. After I kill mine, I'll film you kill yours. So that way I get 2 episodes instead of 1. I get a better deal from him, and it's just good for everybody. And he gets to hunt a caribou.
And I happen to do the same thing with Joe Bartlett of Blue Creek Outdoors, is the cameraman I've been hiring and hauling around. And he did our Kodiak trip, and I did the same thing. I'm like, why don't you and your cameraman pick up blacktail tags?
There you go.
And once the goats are dead and the footage is captured, you're free to go kill all the blacktail you want, right?
Sweetens the deal a little bit.
And it actually worked out to where we just stuck all those kill shots in the one film.
Oh, cool.
So we got 6 kill shots, and
that's a good one, man.
It's a good one, and it's interesting. Each one of those trips takes on a life of its own, and I would explain it like this, right? If you sit down to the Thanksgiving meal, that's like going on the hunt, right? If you were to sit down and watch the raw footage that we captured from a hunt, take our Kodiak trip example, it was almost 20 days. We captured a little over 20 hours of footage. Camera was on about an hour a day. We reduced that down to an hour.
Yeah.
Right? So there's 19 hours of footage that is just gone, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to like eat the whole apple pie and have the milkshake, that would be like consuming the footage.
Yeah.
Going on the trip is having the whole 5-course Thanksgiving meal.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But watching the film is just reaching over with a spoon and grabbing some milkshake and tasting it and going, that looks like it was a pretty good trip. You're like, you're just getting the tip of the iceberg.
The tip of it, and you're getting the best stuff. But yeah, and this trip was different too because we landed. Usually, I have a day when I get somewhere to like hang out and get gear ready and prep and stuff. We landed in Prudhoe. They picked us up, and it was like we had an hour to shuffle gear outside, like under a carport. And then get ready to go like into the Alaskan bush for 9 days. So it was like a mad rush, and I'm tired from flying all night. So I'm feeling like pre-game jitters, man. Like, and
what did I forget? What do we need?
Yeah.
And there's no second chance now. It's the plane is coming in a half hour to haul you out, and you got to float out and survive yourself or not.
In this case, it was an airboat, but yeah, same deal. And also, the last time before this trip I had been in a pack raft was spring bear season, and I didn't have a great experience, I'll put it that way. It got a little scary, okay? I misjudged the current on a river crossing and ended up getting pushed way down in some willows, and it was just not pretty. So I was a little bit nervous. And this is not just like one little river crossing. This is a 70-mile, 2-day float out.
Yeah.
Like we were in the boat going up there at full speed for like 3 hours. Like completely different world. I remember floating out at the last day and looking back, you could barely even see the mountains we were hunting. So it was wild, man. But anyway, we get up there. He drops us on an island. He's like, all right, caribou sometimes come on this side, sometimes on that side, sit here in glass, and then pick a side. So we weren't expecting to get the boats out until the end. But ends up day 2, we had to pack up all our stuff and float off this island, which in itself was a bit of an adventure. And then the whole week I'm like, we're hunting, but I'm just in the back of my head, just like, you got to float out. You got to float out. I was a little nervous the whole time.
With a caribou in your raft.
Yeah, and then 2. But those rafts are amazing. You can we probably shoved 100 pounds of meat and gear inside the tubes of those things. And it ended up, the float out really wasn't bad. It was actually a lot of fun. It was not easy, and it was an adventure, but it wasn't like super scary or anything.
But when you come home from that, you come home with a sense of wonder and victory and accomplishment.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just no cell phone for 9 days, right? Mm-hmm. It just watching the sunrise, watching the sunset, all those things culminate into an adventure that in 30 years you're going to look back and go, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. Mm-hmm. And is it about killing? No. Is the harvest important? Yes.
Yeah. And being in that environment, man, we got to watch the first stalk I went in got blown up because a wolf. I looked up and they're running. I was like, that's weird. We're too far away. I look up again. There's a white wolf just chasing these 2 huge bulls up this basin. And I was like, I wasn't even mad. I was like, that's sick. Yeah.
He beat us to the game.
Yeah.
That's his prey.
We saw like muskox and moose and grizzlies, and it was just so cool being there. All the Canadian geese were still up there, hadn't migrated yet. It was really cool.
But back to your story about having to game plan change. You weren't going to get the rafts out till the last day. In life in general, you need to be able to be adaptable, right?
100%. Yeah.
You need to have a game plan, and you need to work the plan until it's not working.
Yeah.
But when you have kids, I have kids. You have business and a job. I have business and a job with the podcast, with the filming. I'd love to just go do a film every week, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of trepidation. There's some hesitation. When you get there, like, okay, we're here. We got the equipment, the camera crew, the food. Let's get to work. It's a mission. But that can't be every day. I can't go on 52 different filmed hunts this next year.
And what you're saying about being adaptable. So I come from the East Coast, and I've been immersed in Western culture for like 4 years. And so I'm always noticing little differences in like how we are in the East versus how you guys are and stuff. And that's one thing that I've really learned from Western hunting and from being around guys like yourself is, in a very general sense, a lot of people, just in general, culturally on the East Coast, just because you're always pretty close to a town or a person or something, it's like the mentality is more, if something goes wrong, if I really need, there'll be someone to bail me out. I can call somebody, I can call a locksmith, I can call AAA, whatever, somebody can bail me out. But like when you're in the West, a lot of you guys have this much more mindset of, we're here, we're going to figure this out and fix it and get out of here. That's the only option.
The only option is we fix this and find a solution.
Yeah,
right?
Expect to self-rescue. That was my like motto for that Alaska trip, because something like we were about to pack up and my camera guy's raft, the zipper wouldn't go up. And my just initial gut instinct is like, we're screwed, call the transporter, like we gotta, but I was like, no, figure it out, get the zipper lube out, read the instructions, clean the sand out of the zipper, figure it out, we got it zipped and we left. Just little stuff like that where no one's gonna bail you out.
You look at most of the rigs that we drive, I have a winch on the front of all my trucks, right? And there's always high lift jacks and shovels and jumper cables and it's little things, air compressors and first aid and safety, because it doesn't matter if I'm in Alaska or Montana or Wyoming or Arizona, Nevada, we're going 20, 30, 40, 50 miles away from the nearest other person, trying to intentionally.
Right.
And until you get to that point, it's not fun, right? You tell me, hey, I've got a hunt for you, but it's going to be in 20 acres out my back door, and you can just stay in the house, and we're going to just walk out and sit in this pop-up blind.
Not as fun.
If you've got a 200-inch whitetail, sure, I'll come sit in your pop-up blind in your backyard, and we'll sit there for a week and kill it. I'm not going to turn my nose up and say that's wrong.
For sure.
That's actually cool that you can get up, have breakfast and eggs, bacon, and walk for 3 minutes and sit down and have.
Yeah.
But for
my
me,
biggest deer ever killed in Virginia was off my back porch in shorts. Anyway.
Side note, there you guys go. If you really want to get a big whitetail, get a porch and some shorts and hang out till a big whitetail shows up. I'm excited to see where you've taken this, where you've gone from when you said, I'm doing this and I'm going to start this. And you didn't, when you come up to me, you didn't say, hey, I'm going to try. You didn't say, I think I might give this an attempt and I'm going to do a couple episodes and see what happens. No, you said, I'm going to be the next Western hunting kind of podcast guru guy. I'm starting this. We're calling it the Hunter's Quest and I'm doing it, right? That was your mentality from the beginning. And look at where you're at.
Yeah,
You've
thanks, man. Yeah, well.
So what's in the future? What's coming next?
I definitely don't think I've arrived or anything yet, and definitely got to give glory to God and the family for helping me to get here. But like I said, when I get obsessed with something, like I've been with this for the past 4 years, like I don't stop till it's happening. So
job's not done. Yeah,
but I'm sitting right now I have some really great partners on board that I'm very fortunate and like proud to be working with. I'm about 90% done with filming season 2. I'm already planning filming of season 3 and just working on continuing to drum up support with companies that I believe in and trust, and hopefully they trust me a little bit. And like I said, I knew from the beginning, like, if I wanted to make a ton of money, I would have gone to law school or something like that. That's not why I got into this. And I know I'll never be, I don't want to say that, but probably will never be a rich man. But if I can do what I love, do what I feel like God made me to do and scrape out a little living for me and my family, I'm happy. So
Yeah, we posted a reel on Instagram here about a week and a half ago of me mounting the mountain goat up on the wall in the warehouse. And the background of it is, are you a rich man? And it says, no, I don't have that kind of richness. And then I put photos of me and my brother and my dad hauling that goat out. I'm like, I don't have a lot of money.
Different kind of wealth.
But I have some wealth that you can't buy, period.
You cannot.
Guys, this has been Hunter with the Radcast Outdoors Hunter Quest podcast.
Yep, the Hunter's Quest.
The Hunter's Quest. So watch season 1, get ready for season 2. Go check out some of the early podcasts you and I did.
Yeah.
And you've got a ton of other guests on there.
Yep.
So
Thanks for having me, dude.
No, thanks for hopping on here. And until the next one, guys, take somebody outdoors hunting or fishing.
Amen.
Thanks again for listening to the Radcast Outdoors podcast. We hope that you've enjoyed the show. If so, please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Carbon TV, YouTube, or wherever you're listening to this podcast and subscribe, share, and give us a 5-star rating, which helps other people find the show. You can find all of our shows, recipes, giveaways, videos, and much more at radcastoutdoors.com. Please don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We also have a Radcast community on Facebook called Radcast Nation. We'd love for you to join in the conversation there. And of course, please help support our sponsors who make this show possible. Thanks again to PK Lures, Bow Spider, and High Mountain Seasonings. Until next time, get out there and enjoy the outdoors.